We now return to Opinions Matter, a look deep inside the local issues affecting Mercer County. Once again, here's your host, Joe Fabrizi.
Welcome back. I'm very happy to let everyone know that the Councilwoman Mandel has called in, and she's on the line. And I want to welcome her at this point. And I hope she doesn't mind me calling her by her first name. Councilwoman Mandel, do you mind if I call you Andrea?
Andrea's great.
Okay. So what went on in West Windsor? Okay. So what went on in West Windsor with this race? I mean, I believe it was over, the bone of contention was really the warehouse development. Am I correct?
That was the large issue that our opponents did try to use. It wasn't the issue we chose. We preferred, running on our record, obviously.
Right.
I think in general we had a very good record. People generally appreciated the type of service we did. We're all three of us were longtime volunteers, and we took office 4 years ago, and we did a lot of extra things. We actually took office. COVID hit right after we took office, and we did all kinds of extra things, from food collections to medical to making sure that parks were open. We were up front and center during that whole period to make sure that there were services. I know in a lot of other parts of the state, the council people kind of took the same back seat the state legislature did, letting the executive branch pretty much just run everything and sometimes not even bothering to show up. But we decided early on that wasn't us. And
so you guys are nonpartisan, by the way, right?
No, we're nonpartisan. One interesting thing on the warehouse issue is I know in a lot of towns suddenly the warehouses have become a big issue, and in a lot of towns somebody comes in, they randomly pick a farm or an old shopping center or something, and they want to tear it down and put a warehouse in the middle of nowhere. In the particular case of this piece of property, which is right at the border in West Windsor, there was an entire years-long issue where it was always zoned commercial. It had been originally an American cyanamide experimental research property. They basically fed pigs different things and saw how big they would get. And it was a piece of property that had all kinds of chemicals and other things on it that needed a lot of remediation. And it became a matter of what can we do. Back about 6-7 years ago, the people who had bought the property, the Howard Hughes Corporation, had come in with what they called mixed use, which was essentially high-density residential for that property. It would have greatly increased the population in West Windsor. It would have been a big problem for the school system. It would have increased taxes because of the way we fund school in New Jersey. That's another 2-hour issue. I won't go into that. And the people in West Windsor were very much against it. There were meetings held where they had to move planning board meetings to the auditoriums of the high school in order to get everybody to just fit in the meeting. One meeting, 150 people got up to speak against that kind of a development for us. The company had a lawsuit trying to get us to put high-density residential development. That lawsuit would come under affordable housing in the 2025 rounds that are coming up. So it was a looming issue. And in 2020, when warehouses were a big hot thing, at the end of the first COVID year, they came in with a deal where they said if you let us build warehouses as part of that property, we would not only drop our lawsuit, but we would even if we decide not to build the warehouses, we would never reinstitute the lawsuit. And if somebody else bought the property, it would go with the property that they could not reinstitute a lawsuit for residential, that it would remain a commercial property. And that was a very good deal. We've heard from people of all types all over that this is like a one-time type of deal, because residential is just so lucrative for developers that they really would give up that opportunity. And as part of a court settlement, we agreed to allow warehouses. So the history on that of this property is just so different, and the whole history of what people were concerned were going to be on this property is just so different than what you see in other places, that it hadn't been quite as much of an issue. It was also at the outskirts of our town, so you've had more where leaders in the other towns were concerned, because they had really wanted us to build the residential, and they would keep the commercial on the other side, and then we would be supplying the labor and everything for their commercial properties with rateables. So it was always a good deal for other towns if we put high density residential, and then they would be allowed to get all the money from the rateables. Not a good deal for us. So, it came to the planning board. There were some issues with it. I happened to be on the planning board as part of the council. This was last year. We made a number of changes to do away with a lot of the issues of where the trucks were going to go, and some of the other issues that could be a problem. And that's where it laid. As far as our town government, we're a mayor-council form of government. Our council has 5 people. The 2 people that were already on the council when we came on, at that time they were 2 Republicans. At the time we ran for re-election, there was 1 Republican, 1 Democrat, who had, by the way, run together along with the mayor before. And we are 1 Republican, 1 Democrat, and 1 independent. So we've always worked together regardless of party. We look upon ourselves as a symbol for the nation, if you will, on how people can work together. We don't get involved in international, national. We basically work for the town and the good of the town. We never go to any party bosses or any party people or say, hey, how should we vote on this? What do you think? Are you trying to do something for the next town over? In which case, we can't do it because we're going to make a deal, even though doesn't benefit our town.
Councilwoman, I'd like to ask you a question at this point. So,
sure.
Was there any outside intervention in the election?
Yeah, that's basically what happened. We are independent. We don't work with any particular parties. The other team was actually not just endorsed but selected by the Democratic Party. Now, if you know Mercer County, which I assume you do.
Yes, I do.
Just about every.
And I believe a lot of listeners know Mercer County as well. So.
You're right. So this is the Mercer County show.
Right.
Mercer County is it's essentially totally Democrat controlled. There's no way anybody's getting elected to to county positions, to state positions, to anything in Mercer County unless you're selected by the Democratic Party. There's 2 nonpartisan towns. Other than that, the towns, everybody votes along party lines, other than our towns, which are nonpartisan.
So what did they actually do? Did they put boots on? They put boots on the ground.
That. Oh yeah. What happened was they held a meeting of the West Windsor Democratic Party and the West Windsor County West Windsor organization, regular Democratic organization. They selected 3 candidates to run. They went and they hired a Democrat out of Trenton as their campaign manager.
Wow. So much for home rule.
They used Act Blue, which is the Democrat Party platform, as their platform for their websites. They went to and they got endorsements from every Democrat, from Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman down through the county commissioners, and then from Democrats mayors of other adjoining towns and Democrats from the adjoining towns that became involved in the election too, including the ones that we were in competition with. We actually had a case where they were strongly opposing and telling everybody to fear our warehouse, but when the next town over put a warehouse essentially a few feet from our border, they were saying what a wonderful thing that was.
Yeah.
So, but they had, really publicly, but essentially that, and the whole thing was over the warehouses. It started way back before we ever started, back in, even before May, and it was all about sending literature out. They got money from campaigns. There were a number of assembly campaigns that had extra money because Democrats don't really need a lot to run for assembly here, and they gave thousands of dollars into the coffers. So we wound up being outspent probably about 5 to 1.
Wow! And and you know what? It's amazing. You guys still prevailed.
Yeah, I mean, it was. They knew people all over. They knew what line they were going to run on. When you choose for a line, we kept saying we want to do literature. Tell us what the line's going to look like. And we were told, when the ballot comes out, you'll see.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they had already put out literature saying that they were running on line E.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that information.
Yeah. To digress for a moment, just to digress for one moment, the party line thing is a problem now for the Democrats with the Governor Murphy wanting to anoint his wife with the blessing of the nomination of the Democratic Party by leaning all the county chairs. And a lot of times those county chairs haven't even had meetings of the committee people, and they're endorsing her already. So he's using all the levers in front of him. And so the party line thing it could become a major issue in the upcoming election.
I keep hoping so. I mean, that party line is one of the things is we don't get involved, hopefully, in the party line, but here we're not, because we don't have primaries.
Right.
What happened is they had their meeting of their Democratic committee. They selected candidates, and in order to compete to be a candidate from the Democratic committee, you actually had to sign something saying that you would not try to run yourself. And you would have to support whoever the Democratic committee selected.
Oh my
and this isn't a nonpartisan election. That was part of the application. And they got. And the thing is, even if we had the money, we don't have. There's a certain infrastructure to get out the vote and to get out the vote by mail vote, which is critical. And this is where they did well. They got people to come in and also. And to do a heavy get-out-the-vote campaign. They had a number of paid people. They had a number of paid people that went around giving out brochures and doing other things like that. And they had the infrastructure set up to do all that because they had a party infrastructure that essentially the entire Mercer County party infrastructure was set. And all this money was set against these 3 little council races.
Wow!
And
you guys prevailed. Well, my hats off to you. I love it when the underdog wins. I love it.
Yeah, two of us did. I will say the third person on our ticket did not.
Right.
But Sonia and I prevailed. We're unhappy about Mike. I mean, he's a volunteer and, a volunteer fire and everything like that.
One of the things that really should resonate with anybody that's listening today, you identified the fact that there was a Democrat, there's a Republican, and there was an independent, and you people ran together and you all get along. And you do business together. You compromise, and you get things done, and you serve the residents of West Windsor. It's not partisan politics, and yet we have the Mercer County Democratic machine coming in there wanting to dictate what's going on in West Windsor in a nonpartisan election.
We never even when we talked together, I can't think of one time that it was I thought one way from, and then someone else thought another way because of what party we were in. You just don't deal with that type of thing on a town level.
Councilwoman, we need to take a quick break. You can stay with us. If you can stay with us, we'll be back right after this.
Sure.
Right.
Experience the spirit of giving when you
return to Opinions Matter, a look deep inside the local issues affecting Mercer County. Once again, here's your host, Joe Fabrizi.
Welcome back. If you just joined in, we do have a councilwoman from West Windsor. Councilwoman Andrea Mandel is on the line, and she's given us the rundown on what happened during the election in West Windsor, where two out of, herself and her running mate, one running mate was not successful, but her and one other were, and they were up against the Democratic machine, actually, that intervened in a nonpartisan election in West Windsor. So, Councilwoman, thank you for calling in, and I hope that it wasn't an inconvenience you waiting on the side while we did our commercial, but we do need sponsors here, and I want to take a moment to let people know if they do like listening to this program. We are going to expand it to a Wednesday after the first of the year, so we're going to be on Monday and Wednesday, but we are looking for sponsors, and, things... believe it or not, I have to pay for printer ink, and I got to pay for gas. Bill's the chauffeur. Once in a while, I got to give him a tip, and so a sponsor would be nice to help defray some of the costs here at the station. At any rate, Councilwoman, I didn't mean to interrupt you when we went to break.
No, I really, having seen how nonpartisanism can work, I really wish more towns would look at it. I know the legislature actually made it a little harder to do. Mm-hmm. But if towns could do it, and I would like to see something that would, that perhaps could prevent this kind of partisanship trying to come in to these elections, because it really kind of does away with the whole idea if it just becomes, we're really a partisan election, but we don't have labels. So that's something that I think would be very beneficial to a lot of the towns, so that this way there's a choice. Because in West Windsor, if you want to run for election, you don't have to just convince two party bosses it's your turn, and then you get picked. You have to form your own slate. You have to find your own allies and friends. You've got to go out there and go door to door, and you've got to convince people. You've got to use media. If you need money, you've got to collect from your friends and from your own pocket. And it's something that I think most towns don't have that benefit, because we're out there all the time. We'll talk to everybody. People contact us all hours if there's issues. We're not beholden to anyone else but the people who elect us. So the kind of service I think you can get when you have it, no matter who wins, if it's truly nonpartisan, then people do realize who they owe their election to, and it's to the people in the town that they've all had to build relationships over a number of years.
Yeah, I think
that's my pitch for that.
I think it's a good representation of grassroots politics, basically, in nonpartisan towns. And in this situation, it shows that grassroots politics can overcome machine politics.
And we still have we've always had good relationships if we wanted to talk to assembly people and county people, and I think that's always been there. I assume that will continue. A lot of those people, I'm sure, just felt pressured. Mm-hmm. As part, that they're part of the party and they're expected to do it whether they wanted to or not. And I really would hope that those relationships continue. I can't fault somebody who's in a position and the party's telling them they have to support somebody in this election, and I will want to continue to work with them as I would with anybody. And but it's really a shame that there is that kind of interference.
Mm-hmm. So when is the mayoral race up?
That'll be in 2 years. We do a when I run it's a 4-year terms, mm-hmm. and I'm in the 3 councilperson term. Okay. And then in 2 years it's a mayor and 2 council people. And people don't have to run as slates. Right. They tend to, and then sometimes an independent will run for one candidate or for one position or another here or there. Mm-hmm. We've had all kinds of weird combinations in this town. This just happened to be a 3-3 because there's the three of us who were incumbents, and then there were these three chosen by the Democratic Party that ran against us. So,
it's been a long time since I filed any ELEC reports, so I'd be interested, at some point in looking at how much was actually spent by the Democratic organization in Mercer County in that election, or what was expended, by your team and by them. When will we get, what is it, the fourth quarter filing or whatever?
There's ELEC's reports are pretty much coming out now. I think there's like one or two that are just getting, final ones that are getting filed.
Yeah.
We did wind up scraping up some extra money right at the end to try to get like one final mailing out. It shows like certain money comes from certain places, and
right.
Then I guess you can keep. If you're really curious, you can keep tracking back and figure out where those places got that money from. But
the reason I say that is, there's a lot of this. I guess you heard at the beginning of the show we were talking about some of the ridiculously small municipalities that exist, and for reasons that are non-existent anymore, that no one wants to merge. And one of the arguments against it is well, we want home rule. Well, when you're getting money from all over, in some instances even outside the state, going into a local race or a county race, or even a legislative race, is that home rule?
Yeah. Well, we raised the question of if you're going to be independent, is all this support and all this money from these outside organizations, and it wasn't just the party, there were some other organizations that were giving support and stuff like that. And we raised the question of, well, if you're going to get elected with that support, won't there be some influence there? And, it got kind of defensive at that point.
I'm sure.
But I think that...
I'm sure.
But I think that is a key thing. If you're going to be taking money from even the mayor of the next town or something and its support, and then something comes up and there's two towns, do you owe somebody anything? And we tried to be, very, very clean with that. We didn't even go asking for organizations to endorse us. We tried to stay away from owing anybody anything.
Well, usually, as you well know, and as you identified, when someone gives a large amount of money, especially if it's from a special interest, it doesn't come without strings. There's always strings. So, all those things, I believe, because you're able to, and you were, again, it's. I think one of the reasons that you probably prevailed, you and one of your running mates, is the fact that the people in West Windsor, I think if you look, it's predominantly a white-collar community, more or less. And I'm not knocking Hamilton, where I come from or whatever, but I think people are more educated there, so they're more apt to really look at what's going on and really try to understand what's going on and make it their business to understand what's going on. Where in some towns, unfortunately, people are so busy trying to make ends meet, they don't even have the time to really look. It's a shame.
Surprised. I mean, a lot of people here are so busy going into New York, and they're still going into New York City, coming back home, 8 o'clock at night, getting up at 5 the next morning, and if you walk through here, most people probably can't even name the mayor. I mean,
right.
The mayor has a joke where when he walked around running for re-election, he said, "I'm the mayor," and somebody said, "Mayor of what?" But
the mayor's a great guy. I had him on. Mayor Marathi is, and I look forward to having him on at some point in the near future.
So a lot of people are interested, but they do have their, schooling is a really big priority in our town.
Sure.
And kids' activities, because everybody's looking to, get their kids a leg up.
Right.
There's a lot of other things. We do have a lot of great things that go on in the town, between art centers and historical society. We've been doing major new things with, and our community day.
Right.
We do our National Drive Electric Week. We do a lot. There's always something going on. Every weekend or evening around here, and people are involved, but there's a lot going on. So, yeah, I mean,
right.
Sometimes the politics isn't on the top of everybody's list, but
right.
But
anyway, Councilwoman, I want to thank you for sharing the time that you have with us, and it was
thank you for having me.
Very informative, and I look forward to having you on again when you have the time, as time moves forward, as issues arise and what have you, and also looking to have the mayor on, Mayor Marathi. Okay. I really appreciate it, and we're going to take a quick break, people, but stay with us. We're coming back. There's a whole lot more to come. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We'll talk to you. Bye.
Bye.
You won't see termites crawling across your floor.